Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is January 5th, 2024, and we're here. Sale is no longer a Red Sox. He's been traded, plus other moves. Let's do it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order in 2024. Happy New Year's, everybody. Welcome to the new year. We're getting closer and closer to baseball. Just a couple months away. We're less than 2 months from some spring training baseball. That starts February 22nd. And we still have a whole slew of unsigned top-end free agents, guys like Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Josh Hader. Those are the first 5 names that come to mind, but there are still plenty of other names out there. So that means we have a big January and possibly February incoming for MLB free agency. But not to say that the moves that happened in the past week aren't big names, because we've got some big stuff to talk about. Particularly Chris Sale, obviously the headline kind of news of the week here. But I just want to say thank you so much for tuning on in. And welcome to 2024, the new year. I'm excited to keep things going here. Like I said about a couple episodes ago, I still plan on making some slight changes to the formula and structure of how I'm going to be doing episodes entering 2024. So still working on that. We'll figure things out as long as we go. So let's get started here today. And I guess we'll start talking about the Chris Sale news, because that is ideally the biggest news. The Braves, they keep their trade train rolling, and they go out and trade for Chris Sale, top end starter of the decade, really. He's going over to Atlanta, and the Red Sox in return are getting Vaughn Grissom, one of their young kids who had a lot of upside talent. I guess we'll take a look at Grissom here first, because like I said, there is upside talent there. He made his debut with the Braves in 2022. Got some opportunities there where he slashed .291 and an OPS of .792. Had a couple of home runs, couple of RBIs, some stolen bases. Just overall, a nice little jump season into it. He played a couple of games last year as well in 2023, where he slashed .280 with a .659 OPS. Didn't hit a home run, but had a triple, more RBIs, a couple other things here and there. In total, in those 2 years with the Braves, played 64 games where he hit 5 home runs, slashed .746, and he's going to be 23 this year with Boston. So a young kid there, young, shortstop, second baseman, really, infielder. And we were talking about this kid with the Braves organization as possible future thing. Maybe the next shortstop there, obviously, because second baseman is pertained by Ozzie Albies. But Orlando Arcia had a really good year for them last year, so I don't know if they're going to be too eager to move on from him just like that. But the Braves, like we talked about, they have a very solid, structured team where the guys there are wrapped up on long-term deals, and they're very good. Matt Olson at first, Riley at third, Sean Murphy behind the dish, Acuna in right, Michael Harris out there in center, Jared Kelenic now, possible from the trade, in left. The real only position that maybe could have some improvements is that shortstop position, but like I said, Orlando Arcia did have a good year, so Vaughn Grissom was able to move it. When you have an MLB team full of talent, your minor league talent, you trade for where you need to fill the holes. And Boston and the Braves had a hole to fill with their starting pitcher, which is why they're able to make this move. If you're Boston, you get a really great, young player with a lot of upside, because we mentioned Grissom, how talented, how he is a hitter first type of guy as well. And actually, now I just pulled up his baseball reference. Today is his birthday, actually. So he is officially 23 years old today, born January 5th, 2001. So happy birthday, Vaughn Grissom, a couple days before you get traded, and now it's your birthday, so there you go. But yeah, so Boston, you get a kid who possibly could be part of your future, perhaps. Boston's been kind of looking for an identity since. And I mean, trading Chris Sale is kind of an end of an era type thing for Boston, where if you look at their 2018 World Series team, the only player left from that team now is Rafael Devers, and obviously he's locked up long term. But moving on now to look at Chris Sale here. I mean, like I said, when you think of Chris Sale, he should be on the upper echelon of the guys like Verlander, Kershaw, Scherzer. Like from 2015 onward, these were the guys that were taking the storm, and even before that, 2010s even. But the last decade, it's been these guys. Chris Sale, a 7-time All-Star, 5 of them with the White Sox and 2 of them with Boston. Obviously, he got his start with the White Sox, debuted in 2010. And from 2012 to 2018, those 7 years were all his All-Star years. He finished in the top 5 Cy Young voting in all those years, except for one. In 2012, he finished top 6. Then it was 5th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 2nd, 4th, but never in his career has won a Cy Young. Ever since that, though, in 2018, from 2019 onward, it's been a bit of a struggle for him, especially on the injury side of things. In 2021, he only played 9 games. In 2022, he only played 2. Last year, we've got more of a full sample to Chris Sale, even though he was injured from time to time. He did play in 20 games, though, but only pitched 102 innings, finished with a 4.3 ERA and a 6-5 record on the year. Still posted 125 strikeouts, though, and only allowed 15 home runs. So he can still be that dominant pitcher, and that's what the Braves are banking on, obviously, to be that kind of top-end pitcher. Obviously, injuries have proven struggle for Sale recently, but if he can stay healthy, if the Braves can use him for playoffs, it makes a lot of sense, because when you think of the Braves, 2 of the hardest teams that they compete with in the playoffs, essentially, is the Dodgers and the Phillies. And who are the top-end hitters on those lineups? Left-handed hitters. The Dodgers have now Shohei Ohtani. They have Freddie Freeman. The Phillies, they have Kyle Schwarber. They have Bryce Harper. Left-handed hitters struggle against left-handed pitching, and Chris Sale is one of those dominant left-handed pitchings. And this makes a lot of sense for the Braves. I wonder where he's going to get slotted into the rotation. Obviously, guys like Charlie Morton, Spencer Strider there. Blanking on the rest of the rotation, but I know they have guys there. But yeah, it's a good move for both teams regardless. I think the Braves do really well, though, just because of how the deal is essentially made up. Boston is still going to be paying $17 million on Chris Sale's contract. The Braves were only going to have to pay $500K this year, but they did extend Chris Sale to a 2-year, $38 million deal. So this year in 2024, on top of the $17 million from Boston, Chris Sale is getting $16 million there. And then next year in 2025, he's getting $22 million. And then the Braves also have an $18 million club option for 2026. So the Braves and Alex Anthopoulos continue to make great moves. All the moves the Braves made this offseason has been from trades. They haven't really just signed an agent, a free agent like that. So we'll see how the Braves continue to progress and who is next to be traded. But yeah, they're a top-end team. They're looking very good and primed for another postseason appearance in 2024. But let's stay with Boston here anyways to talk about a move that they made. If you're worried about losing a starting pitcher, Boston fans, do not worry, because Lucas Giolito is heading your way on a 2-year, $38.5 million deal. Lucas Giolito, part of the 3, when I think of, the 3 that played together, Max Fried and Jack Flaherty, Lucas Giolito is part of that 3, and what a couple of years he's had, really. Debuted in 2016 with the Nationals, but then got traded from the Nationals. He ended up going to the White Sox for Adam Eaton alongside Dane Dunning and Ronaldo Lopez. And this is kind of where things get interesting. A couple seasons, getting some work in. 2018 was his first major full season, played 32 games. 2019, he was an all-star, finished 6th in Cy Young voting. The following year, in COVID year 2020, finished 7th in Cy Young voting, and then in 2021, finished 11th in Cy Young voting. During that time, he also threw a no-hitter. And he was looking like a prime pitcher, one of the top end pitchers, not only in the White Sox organization, but in baseball as a whole. And then 2022 happened, and this is where things start flying off the rails for Lucas Giolito. He did finish with a winning record, 11-9 that year, but he had a 4.9 ERA, very close to 5 in those 30 starts he made. He allowed 24 home runs. And then this year in 2023, although his ERA went down 2 points from 4.9 to 4.88, he finished 8-15 and nearly doubled how many home runs he gave up. He gave up 41 home runs this year across 3 teams. And the White Sox, he was doing okay with Chicago. He was 6-6 with a 3.8 ERA. Then was traded to the Angels at the deadline, and then this is where things really fell off the wire. With the Angels, he was 1-5 and a 6.89 ERA. The Angels eventually say, you know what, we're putting people on waivers because of the Ohtani stuff. Cleveland ends up claiming him, thinking that maybe they have a chance to snipe the AL Central from the Twins. And it blows up in their face. Lucas Giolito with a 7.04 ERA in his time with Cleveland in those 6 games. So even worse in his time with the Angels. Things just haven't gone Giolito's way in the last 2 years. And now with going to be his 5th team in Boston, he's hoping to right the ship there. And all the best for Lucas Giolito because he's a really nice guy when you hear him talk. I like him a lot. And like I said, you know, going back to the 2019, 2020, 2021, he was a very good, strong pitcher, and I think he can re-tap into that. I think he just lost some of his confidence, and then started missing, you know, middle with a lot of his pitches. And obviously, when you're in the majors, you're missing middle. People are going to get you, and a lot of people were doing that to him over the last 2 years here. But specifically last year was just not great, having struggles with 3 different teams essentially, even though he was doing decently with the White Sox before they flipped him. I think this is a strong move for the Red Sox. Obviously, we know we've been talking about them kind of in a trying to figure out their identity type way. But now obviously they lose Sale, they get Giolito, they trade for Tyler O'Neill earlier in this offseason as well. You know, they're slowly starting to piece together a team. But the only question is how good will this team be on paper versus, you know, now being in the AL East where you're playing Baltimore, who's going to win upper echelon of 100 games again. Who knows what the Yankees going to do, how the Blue Jays going to look. You know, in Tampa Bay, it seems like they're running out of devil magic every year, but then they show up when their devil magic is on the table for everybody to see with their huge energy. So, you know, even with all these moves, it still seems like Boston's going to be somewhere 5th or maybe even 4th in the division again this year. So we'll have to see what Boston keeps on doing, but I do like the move for them. I think Giolito is going to have a strong kind of bounce back year. Well, at least that's the hope for him. But it's a strong move, I'd say. And hopefully it works out. He's going to be entering his age 30 season, Giolito is. So, yeah, there's that. Let's switch gears here a little bit and go from the AL East to the NL West to talk about your San Diego Padres. And they have signed, and excuse me once again if I pronounce this incorrectly, Woo Suk Go to a 2-year, $4.5 million deal. This isn't the first Japanese or Korean ball player the Padres have signed, especially from the bullpen. They signed Yuki Matsui earlier already in this offseason, and now they have signed Woo Suk Go. Going back to Yuki really quickly, though, it came out with how his contract was going to be structured. It's a 5-year deal. This year in 2024, he's making $3.25 million. Next year it's 5.5, following year 5.75, 6.5 in 2027. and then $7 million in 2028. Woo Suk-go, a little less of a reliever than he was, but still same kind of things. This guy comes from the KBO, so Korean. There. He's going to be entering his age 25 season. He's played 7 seasons in the KBO with his team. So career-wise, he's 19-26 as a relief pitcher, which isn't bad. A 3.18 ERA. And then he's played in 354 games in that time. Pitched 368 innings. He's got 139 saves to his name. Obviously, with Yuki there, I don't know how much saving opportunity he will have with the Padres, but he is going to go to San Diego and be in that back-end bullpen there. Obviously, there's not much I can say. I don't know much about him in general. Haven't seen his pitch mix, pitch repertoire here. Let me see if I can pull that up actually really quickly for you guys here. But yeah, it's good to see the Padres still making moves. Obviously, they lost Hader, but now getting 2 guys here from the MVP, the KBO, and everything. It helps them with kind of getting through, managing through. Sorry, here I was searching things up. Okay, so here we go. His primary pitch, obviously a fastball, throws about 57% of the time. After that, he has a cutter that he likes to mix in there 24% of the time. Then throws a curveball, which is 15% of the time, and then a slider for 3% of the time. He also mixes in a changeup, but very briefly. He didn't throw the changeup at all last year and only threw it a couple times in 2022. So mainly it goes fastball, cutter, curve, with the occasional slider. Each year he's played, it seems like his slider percentage goes down less and less. His fastball clocks up there around 94 is the average there, so he can get it above 95. That cutter sits around 90, slider around 85, and that curveball drops to about 83 miles an hour. So he comes from South Korea. He's going to be 25, or he is 25 essentially, and he'll be joining Yuki Matsui in that Padres bullpen. So good for them there. Hopefully the move works out, and things all go according to the Padres' way. Obviously last year didn't go their way, so they're trying to make moves in ways to make sure that doesn't happen again in 2024. All right, continuing on now, let's talk about Frankie Montas as he signs a 1-year deal with the Reds for $16 million. And Frankie Montas, what a couple of years he's had with the Yankees. I don't even know where to start with this guy here. Was doing very well with Oakland when he got traded from the Dodgers. He starts his career essentially in 2009 when he signs amateur with the Boston Red Sox. He's a 3-part team trade there that sends him to, I have no idea, trying to follow this here, the Tigers or the White Sox. I believe it was the White Sox. And then in 2015, 2 years later, here's a 3-team trade that sends him from the White Sox to the Dodgers. Reds were also involved. And then in 2016, 1 year following, he was traded from the Dodgers to Oakland, which is where he spent a lot of his big league career, essentially. He debuted in 2015 with the White Sox, didn't play when he was with the Dodgers in 2016, and then kind of started out of his rookie year in 2017 out of the bullpen for Oakland. And he pitched really well over there in the last couple of seasons. Not the last couple of seasons, the last when he was there. And then in 2022, he was traded from Oakland alongside Lou Trevino to the Yankees for a couple of guys there, specifically 4 prospects, before he was a free agent this year. Looking at his tenure with the Yankees, it's very easy to find it because of how injured he was. In the 2 years he spent with the Yankees, he only played 9 games, 8 of which he started for. The 1 game he played this year was out of the bullpen. He pitched an inning and a third, allowed 2 hits, and walked a batter with 1 strikeout. So there you go. Not the strongest time in those 2 years with the Yankees. He was 2-3 with a 6.15 ERA. Obviously, short sample size because they only played 41 innings in those 9 games. Allowed 6 home runs, struck out 34 batters. Basically, a very small thing. If these prospects that Oakland got eventually start to, debut and have some success, this is going to be one of those trades that are talked about, not for a long time because it's not like a major trade per se, but it seems like the Yankees definitely lost the trade. The most notable guy from the prospects haul, I would say, was J.P. Sears, who in 2023 with Oakland had a 2.5 WAR, which is, okay, but he was 5-14 with a 4.54 ERA. But he did play 32 games. He was there from the start of the season, pitched every single game that he was supposed to. And considering he was on Oakland, having a 4.54 ERA isn't technically bad. I think he had a pretty okay year there with the A's, so hopefully he can continue to develop, and some of those other guys for Oakland. But Frankie Montas, when he's at his best, he is very good. In 2021, I believe, the year before he got traded, he finished 6th in Cy Young voting in the AL there. He finished 13-9 with a 3.37 ERA. So a very good year for him there. And even before he got traded in 2022 with Oakland, he was at a 3.18 ERA in his 19 starts there. So like I said, kind of going back to the Chris Sale from earlier, if he can stay healthy, he can put up some good numbers there. And with the Reds, what we saw from them last year, it's basically we need help pitching. A lot of our rookie talent right now is on our offense. And that's kind of what they've been doing this year, I would say. I mean, they've gone out there. They added Emilio Pagan for the bullpen. They've added Nick Martinez and now Frankie Montas for that rotation. And obviously Candelario there to play third base. So, kind of each day, I guess, each week that passes by, I'm getting a little bit more and more excited for the Reds in 2024. Obviously, I think the Cardinals might be around. Brewers, of course, will be. Pirates, they've got a lot of young talent, but they're still a little bit out. And who knows what the Cubs are doing because so far they haven't done anything. So right now, I am really liking the Reds' odds entering 2024. I think they said something about they're going to... This was kind of like the last big major move that they're going to plan on making this offseason. So if that's the case, hopefully it works out for them. Frankie Montas stays healthy. Obviously, last year they had issues with Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, kind of their 1 and 2 of that rotation, which gave opportunity to so many other young guys, some of which flourished, some of which struggled heavily, which is why that Reds team was so, 1 week we're 6-1, the next week we're 1-6 type vibes, and then ended up missing the playoffs to begin with. So we'll see how the Reds manage this in 2024, but it's a good move for them, and hopefully Frankie can stay healthy for them. Okay, now let's talk about the Mets. Meet the Mets. And how about Harrison Bader heading on over to your New York Mets? That deal, it's a 1-year deal for $10.5 million there. Looking at Bader, he's never been known for his hitting, although he has put up some decent hitting numbers. This guy, though, is a Gold Glove caliber type outfielder. Very strong stuff there. In terms of defense, he's got a lot of speed as well. Like I said, he can hit, and he had some good moments with the Yankees. Debuted in 2017 with the Cardinals, where in his second year in 2018, in his first full Major League season, finished 6th in the Rookie of the Year voting. Won his first and only Gold Glove so far in 2021. And then the following year in 2022, he was traded at the deadline from the Cardinals to the Yankees, where in a short sample size was doing really well, helped them a lot in the playoffs before they were eliminated. And then next year in 2023, he was with the Yankees before eventually heading over to Cincinnati, where he finished his 2023 season. In his 7-year career, total-wise, though, He's at 59 home runs, 217 ribbies, has a batting average of 243 and an OPS just over 700 at 706. So like I said, he's kind of going to be towards the bottom of the order, batting 7th, 8th, 9th. But obviously on a Mets team that we have been told isn't competing, we'll see what he ends up doing there. Excuse me. But yeah, I think it's a good move for the Mets. They need to fill a gap there in center field. So hopefully Bader can do that. This will be his 4th team in his very young career. He's only going to be 30. Well, I guess 30 is kind of getting up there this year. And he's obviously joining back with former teammate from college, Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso, I saw on Instagram, he seemed very happy to have Bader back in the blue and orange from their college days. So hopefully this all works out. The Mets, I'm always curious to see what the Mets end up doing. Bader is going to be a New York Met for the 2024 season, at least to start it, maybe get straight at the deadline. Kind of seems like that's what the Mets might be doing with some of these players anyways, trying to get some prospects and try to fill some holes as they start to compete in the following year. And speaking of New York teams, the Mets aren't the only ones doing some adding. The Yankees add a guy. They add Cody Potet. And if that name is unfamiliar, what am I saying here? I'll explain why in just a moment here. He was born in 1994, and in his career, he hasn't done much. In total, in his 2 years in the majors, I guess you could say, he's played 19 games, 9 of which were started for. He's got a 4.45 ERA, and last year, he was not even playing baseball. He's dealt with Tommy John surgery and did not play in 2023. He had the Tommy John surgery when he apparently was with Texas, although in his 2 years in the majors in 2021 and 2022, he was with Miami. He didn't want to get outrighted, so he ended up going to free agency, where right now the Yankees have just signed him. I wasn't able to see for the amount here. Let me see if I can double check that quick here, because I didn't have that down. But yeah, so I guess the Yankees are going to use him as a starter here, if I were to predict it. But I think it's going maybe starter, maybe bullpen. I don't know. Last year, or in his last playing year, I guess in 2022. He played 12 games, 2 of which were starts. In 2021, he played 7 games, all 7 of which were starts there. So I'm not exactly sure what they're planning on doing. Baseball Reference has a projection of a save in 40 innings. So possibly they're projecting that he's going to be from the bullpen. 1-year deal, blah blah blah. Yeah, I haven't seen anything about a value yet for him, but it is just a 1-year deal. Most likely will be from the bullpen, it seems like now. And he's only going to be 28. So we'll see how this move goes for the Yankees. Obviously, they lost Michael King in the Soto trade, so they have a couple of needs in not only the rotation but also the bullpen. So I guess they're hoping Cody Potet, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Potet, comes back from Tommy John and has a very strong year. But we'll have to see kind of what ends up happening with him for the Yankees in 2024. And the last couple things to talk about here today, the White Sox have done an add or two. Chris Flexen is heading over to the White Sox on a 1-year, $1.75 million deal. They've also signed Brett Phillips to a minor league contract for 1 year as well. Obviously, this has only been a 1-year podcast, but I absolutely love Brett Phillips. I'm very excited for him to now join, I believe, his 6th team already in the last couple of years here. He's bounced around from team to team. Obviously, most of his success and most of his, memories and time comes from his days with the Rays. Obviously, having that huge hit in the 2020 World Series, Game 4 off of Kenley Jansen to walk it off there. is very funny guy, does his whole, loves to come out of the bullpen and pitch type thing. He's just a very funny guy overall. And, he has some nice hits, some clutch moments. He's obviously no star, but we do love Brett Phillips, so hopefully he gets some playing time there in Chicago in the majors. But obviously the big game here, I guess, Chris Flexen coming over from Colorado, I guess, spent his first couple years with the Mets, didn't play in 2020, and then was with Seattle before now moving over to Colorado at the end of this year. In that time with Colorado, he was starting games. Started 12 games, finished 2-4 with a 6.27 ERA. Obviously, it's hard to start games in Colorado if you're a pitcher. But that is kind of what he was doing there, and now he's heading over to the White Sox, assumed to be possibly a starter. Not sure. Seattle was using him differently in 2023 last year. He played 17 games with Seattle, only 4 of them were starts. And then, obviously, when he went over to Colorado, they used him as a starter full-time, but obviously that didn't really work out for him. So maybe it is better for him to be used out of the bullpen. In 2021 with Seattle, he played 31 games, started all 31 games, and had a 3.61 ERA. So obviously, I guess Moore is a starter in his career. In his 6 years total career, he's played 120 games, 80 of which have been starts. So definitely could be a starter for the White Sox. Definitely could be a bullpen piece. Knowing the White Sox, they're probably going to try to put him out as a starting pitcher here. So we'll see what they end up doing there. Obviously, the White Sox kind of going to have a bad year entering 2024. There's not a lot of expectations and hopes for that organization right now. But people are hoping they right the ship sooner than later, especially because that AL Central division is so weak. Really, anything could happen, though. The Tigers are obviously taking the right steps forward. The Twins and Guardians have always been, that problem there, and the Royals have some young talent coming up over the next couple of years. So the White Sox need to catch up, and they kind of need to do so fast. So we'll see kind of if this spirals into any other moves for them. So that about wraps up all the moves that happened this past week. But it's not the last thing we're talking about today, because this morning I got to wake up with some unfortunate news, I would say. Michael Brantley has announced his retirement from baseball after 15 years, spending it with the Guardians and the Astros here. This is one of those players that you just kind of fall in love with in the game sometimes. I really liked Michael Brantley, not only for the type of human he was, the way he behaved on and off the field, but he was a good player too for those teams, for both the Astros and the Guardians. In total, he was a 5 times All-Star and a Silver Slugger. Was with Houston in 2022 when they won the World Series, even though he had been unhealthy. Obviously, his injuries have caught up to him in the past years. But with Cleveland, he was very good. In 2014 specifically, he had one of his best years. He was an All-Star, a Silver Slugger, and finished 3rd in the MVP voting. And then, of course, later on in the decade, 2017, 18, and 19, he had that big run of 3 straight All-Star appearances. 2 with the Guardians, and then obviously 1 with the Astros in 2019 when he joined. He finishes 129 home runs, but he never was a home run hitter. 720 RBI, 758 runs, a 794 OPS, and a 298 batting average, so just south of 300 there. A very good ball player for many years with both the Guardians, or I guess at the time Indians, as well as the Astros. But obviously, like I said, injuries were catching up to him. Last year with Houston, in his age 36 season, he only was playing 15 games. Hit 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, but only had 15 hits in his 54 at-bats in those 15 games. So he was definitely running on fumes the last couple of years. And is done with the game. So Michael Brantley, congratulations on a very successful career, I would say. In my head, and obviously this is, coming from a young baseball fan who just kind of loves the game, loves players, wants to see the best for as many players as can. I would say it's a kind of border-ish line Hall of Fame, but it probably won't be. But it was a very strong career, a very, fan favorite player. A lot of great memories for him. And, hopefully he gets to spend a lot of time with his family now and he gets to enjoy his retirement. So thank you very much, Michael Brantley, for those memories, and enjoy your retirement. That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you everybody so much for listening. Welcome to 2024. I'm excited to kick off this new year. I've got hopefully getting things going here. Obviously I have school coming back and everything, but I want to continue this as much as I can, and obviously will be. We're getting excited for baseball. I know I am. But of course, right now it's not really prime baseball. It's prime football. Week 18 coming up, the last week. I'm excited for 2 days of football with a lot of clinching scenarios on the line. Whether you follow hockey, basketball, just sports in general, man, isn't it the best sometimes? Just wanted to throw that in here at the end here. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. If you watch football, hopefully your football team is going to be in the playoffs and fighting for that Super Bowl title come February. That wraps up here today. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening, and I will see you guys next time.